Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Miles Morales Spider-Man, issue number 39. This is weird. This is just as good a book as I've been reading for the past couple of issues, coming back to this comic book, this writer, right? But somehow it's diminished. It's diminished because I'm recollecting a few things and I'm understanding better why some people are falling off of this comic book. It's because Saladin, as great a writer as he is, hasn't changed. Translation, the stuff he was good at, he's still good at. The stuff that he was not so good at, he's still not good at it. Let's talk about that. First, let's give credit where credit's due. Saladin Ahmed is the writer. Alberto Foschi, I think that's how you pronounce his name, is the artist, and David Curiel on colors. VC's Corey Petit doing the letters, and Tian Clark doing the cover art. There's looks like only two variant covers. So hey, and Stanley and Steve Ditko created the original Spider-Man. Why would I say that? Because Peter Parker's in this issue, the original OG. You know, I get that Saladin understands that this is a Miles Morales book more than anything else, right? And I dig that. I genuinely do. That's a good thing. But at the same time, when you're talking about a legacy character, a character who's using somebody else's name, you also absolutely need to remember the original, the OG, right? It's one thing if Miles Morales is dealing with Captain America and he kind of gets one over on Captain America. As long as you don't make Captain America look stupid, but Miles gets one over on him, it's like, okay, that's cool, that's fair. You know, they didn't exactly disrespect Captain America. It's just, it is Miles's book, so I get it's cool. But you can't even get away with that when you're talking about Peter Parker, because that's where the original Spider-Man term comes from. Guys, there's going to be some people who are going to question this. This has nothing to do with black and white. Absolutely nothing. Nothing. I get infuriated when I see anything that even remotely shows Monica Rambeau being put under, even remotely, by Carol Danvers, you know? And dude, the original Captain Marvel is not Monica Rambeau, but that was the first one that I came into. And she's the one who really, she kept the name going until they recently, I literally, like, what, 20 minutes ago, decided, hey, you know what, let's give it to Carol Danvers instead. There was no need to do that. There was no need for that. But hey, whatever. It is what it is. I get it. I do. She did appear in the original Marvel books, Captain Marvel. Anyway, with Peter Parker in here, they've been doing a lot with Miles' sister in here. A lot in the sense that even though she barely shows up, she's in it the whole time. When they see Peter Parker, he reveals that he's got some information. He's got this, he's got that. It's because of him, unfortunately, because he's been being tapped. You know, his marrow has been taken out of his bones in order to feed Selim. Okay, I dig that. I dig that a lot. Like, oh my God, he's been using the original Peter Parker. That's why he's so strong. That's why this, that, and the other thing. And Peter also, over the 20 years that he's been captured, has been figuring out a bunch of other things and trying to get information out to other people because that's cool. It's funny, when you think about it, Peter Parker, on average, he's not the type to try and do that. He's the type to try and figure things out for himself because even when somebody goes and puts him in some other team comic book, Peter's a solo guy. Peter has always been a solo guy, even relying on a co-star in his, you know, comic book, Silver Sable or Black Cat or whomever. It's always been about Peter. So even just seeing that he's saying, hey, look, I try to send out, you know, warnings and help and all these things to people over 20 years, but Selim put a stop to it. It's like, that's very mature of Peter to figure out that he should be doing that. Me likey a lot. That said, when he says, oh, I've got some information, and here's, what's her name, Billy? I forget Miles' sister's name. She just says, start talking. One, it's like, you bitch. Like, seriously, shut up. This is a guy who just told you he's been tortured for 20 years and he's got some information and, hey, I can help out and da-da-da-da-da-da, whatever. I don't want to hear, oh, well, she's all business. Okay, well, that means that she's heartless and she's soulless. Therefore, she's a psychopath. That means that she's a psychopath. You got a psychopath helping you, someone who doesn't understand the plight of other human beings. I don't want to hear that. You know, I have no interest in somebody. You can't say that someone like this is a hero, or you can't redeem someone like this. A psychopath can't be redeemed. What normally it'd be like, you know, okay, whatever, because what would usually happen is Miles or even Genk would say, hey, calm down. You know, he's been through a lot. Give him a moment. Like, that's not hard to do, because then that shows that there's care. It's not just this is plot driven. If this is your first time listening to, or one of the first times listening to one of my videos, it's very important to understand that when I review something, it's not like, I liked it, it made me feel good. That's not how I do reviews. I actually look at the way that books are supposed to be done. All books, all stories. I don't care if you're sitting around a campfire or if you're writing the epics of the Iliad and the Odyssey. I don't care. It doesn't matter. All stories have to have a certain ebb and flow. All of them. When you have a story that is driven by plot and not driven by characters, you got an issue. There is so much plot in here. Saladin can come up with all these incredible stories, and they're very basic stories. They're very basic plots. And yet, he knows so many of them. He has so many of them in his... It's like he's got a fishbowl with a bunch of little plots written down on paper. And he's just like, what shall I do for this issue? And what shall I do for this story arc? Okay, I know how to do this. The problem is, do you even know at this point how to make something character driven? Because I don't feel for any of these characters in this book, any of them. Even when the short little round roly-poly fat girl is trying to get with Gulp, I know his name. Anyway, Shift. When he's trying to get with Shift, or she's trying to get with Shift. It's like, because she touched his hand, he's right away attracted to, like, she's not attractive. Like, that little round thing, that is not, by anybody's standard, attractive. I don't, you want to see the garden? You know, the garden. No. Do you wash? That's just me. It's like Saladin puts some things in there where it's like in the back of his mind he knows, yes, do some things to show some character, but that doesn't mean that it's character driven. I don't feel for any of these guys. I don't even feel for Miles in here. Who I felt for was Peter, who's just like, it's like Saladin he knows the answer, but he doesn't get the answer. You know what? Let's take this to math class. It's a reason why your teachers, all of our teachers always said, show the work so that I know that you know what you're doing. Even if you get the right answer, if you don't show me the work, I'm still going to only give you half credit. Because you could have cheated, or this could have been an easy one for you, but you still don't understand the idea of, let's say, long division. You still don't grasp the concept. All right? It's not even that you were cheating. It's that I need to make sure that you fully understand the way that this works. Because this way, if it's a hard problem, if it's a particularly difficult problem, but do you get it? But do you understand? I would prefer to see the characters get angry at Billy, whatever, Miles' sister, for acting like that. I would prefer to see her and multiple other characters. I would prefer to see more than just Miles saying, no, we have to save Peter. I know he's trying to go out in a blaze of glory, but no, that's Peter Parker. We can't do that. I'd like to see Miles' sister say, oh, this guy has been trapped for years and years and years, and even though we need this information, and even though he's given us this information, kind of, sort of, because we're kept in the dark. I've been studying this for 20 years and I found all these things out, blah, 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 blah. So what's the information? Why are you keeping us in the dark about this? Oh, because you want to give us more surprises as we're reading the book. Oh, that's what Peter meant. If we're there in the room, like that's the thing. Saladin needs to understand. I don't want to read exposition. I have zero interest in doing that. I've taken a break from it, but I write technical manuals. I have zero interest in reading a technical manual with pictures. I have zero interest in doing that. One of my friends does the art for those technical manuals. Like that's boring, and everybody knows it's boring. Nobody sits there and read. Like you got to be bored as hell to read, how to perform the Heimlich maneuver or how to put on your vest if you're in a plane. Like you've got to be bored out of your mind to pull that laminated sheet out and start looking that over, right? That's boring. This comic book is boring. Because there's so much plot to keep us going and make us understand these things. But if Saladin could only understand, I do not want to read a technical manual. I want to be in that room rescuing Peter Parker. I want to hear every single thing that is being told. I want to know every single thing that all the people in that room know. Unless you do something to show me that, unless you see somebody going, because I know that I'm not Miles Morales. I know that I'm not Billy or Genki or Peter or any of those characters. Maybe I'm just some side character. Maybe I'm just one of the little masked soldiers who come in there and, they're trying to pull off this rescue operation. Who's this old white guy? That's what I want to see. That's who I want to be in these stories. And Saladin can't get that. He can't grasp that and pull it out of his head and put it onto the paper. It's impossible, it seems, to get this guy to understand. If you exclude me from story, which is clearly right there, very simple information, which is right there, then it tells me that you don't have the imagination to, one, put us in that room, and two, to be able to still pull off a surprise. If the story itself is the surprise, if the goal is the surprise, all these things are a surprise, then it shows me that you don't know how to make surprises jump out, which are the real surprises. Because then they're a surprise to no one in the book. They're only a surprise to me. And mind you, you haven't placed me in the book. I don't feel, every time that I try to put myself in the book as one of these soldiers or as a fly on the wall, I'm immediately ripped out. When the story continues and everybody's like, okay, so we know what we got to do. And I'm like, wait, no, I don't know what you have to do. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know. Why are you going from here to there? I don't understand. There's no room in here to breathe. Jesus Christ, if you've got a story arc where everybody goes and saves the princess, why don't you just simply say, someone stole the princess, but Mario got the princess back? What's the point of making a video game with all the plots and the subplots and the side adventures and gaining points and whatever the hell else happens in video games? What is the point? If all you're going to do is go, oh, we're here, and now we're here, and now we're here, I don't want to read a timeline. I want to read a comic book with some story. And I'd forgotten why I stopped reading Saladin Ahmed's books. Because he used to get it. He used to have, like, does he not remember the thing that everybody who has read it is going to remember him for is the Black Bolt story that made us feel for a character who couldn't even speak. He spoke in the book. He could have done it otherwise, I'm sure, because he's got that talent. Saladin has that talent. But does he not remember? Is it just going through the motions? Is that all it is at this point? Is he putting all of his focus in some image comic that he's doing, some creator-owned thing that he's doing? Or is this just a paycheck for him at this point, where he's so good with plot that gives us the story through exposition the whole time. Would you continue buying video games from a video game company? There's Blizzard, and I don't know any other video game company names. But what, Activision, are they still around? Like LGI? I don't know, I'm old. I don't really play video games anymore. Sometimes I'll jump on 7 Days to Die or Lord of the Rings Online, which old game there. But for the most part, no. No, I don't. I just don't play video games. But I remember video games. I remember that you'd buy a video game and it would be an entire story and you were in the story. I remember that's also how I used to read comic books. And Saladin, for some reason, just doesn't get that anymore. I don't know what happened. Maybe he fell and hit his head and he lost that part of his brain, in which case I'm sorry for you, bruh. But I can't put myself in this comic book, and therefore I can't get invested. I guess I'm out-vested in this comic. I love the characters, or at least I used to. Just because you put somebody out in a blaze of glory doesn't mean that it was actually a good death. And there's an off-screen death too, so it's still shaky. But it doesn't mean that it was glorious. I don't feel like he gave that information to the characters because we didn't get that information. I don't believe that he went out in a blaze of glory because Billy, or Miles' sister, said something good about him in passing after he already died. Miles is the only one who understood who this character was, didn't even explain even partially who this guy was or why he was so important or anything. And there was a romance type tryst on the side and all these things that happened, and I didn't feel for any of them. This is what, and I'm not saying that Saladin is a psychopath, but what I am saying is this is what it's like to read a story from a psychopath. All of these things happen, but I don't know how to feel. I know what I'm supposed to feel about it, but I don't know how to feel about it. I can't show you the work. I can't cry over this. I can't feel elation. I can't feel a sense of pride or even accomplishment. I can't feel for the plight, the highs and the lows, the goods and the bads, the pros and the cons of any of these characters, of anything in this comic book, because all it is this is what, caused this story to begin. This is the character. He goes here, he goes here, he meets him, he meets her. Confrontation with the bad guy. He doesn't win, but he doesn't give up, so he goes over here, and then he faces him again, and because now he's got this, he gets this MacGuffin, and now he gets this stuff. Look, that's how people, when they're trying to teach you, like writing 101, that's how they'll tell you things. And then it's your job as the writer to now make these things happen and put a lot of flourish on them and make them impressive. It's not even that this didn't have time to breathe. This was an automaton. There is no breath. It's just a robot. What is it? Baraktu Klada, whatever, however the hell that thing worked from. This was painful. That's what this was. The art in this was mostly good. There were a couple scenes that came off kind of bland. Curiel's colors brightened it up and allowed for any, I don't know that there were mistakes in writing, but any kind of shortcomings in the art, they were more than made up for by Curiel. Curiel was the real star in this comic book, in this issue, if we had to pick one, Because not a whole lot of sound effects. There was like B-L-A-O, blow, 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 blow. Isn't that how a kid, like bang, bang, and blow, blow? Like that's how kids describe gunfire and things like that, Like I don't know. There was no meat in this. It's like reading a menu all day long. At some point, you'd like to be served. At some point, you want the waiter to come over and take your menu and take your order. You get what I'm saying? Not in that order. Take your order and then take your menus. Because then you know the food is coming out. But who goes to a restaurant and sits there and occupies a table the whole day and just stares at the menu? That's what this is. That's how Saladin is writing this book. And it's painful to me. Guys, that's going to be it for me. I don't know that this book is going to get better. I don't know that I'm going to have the inspiration to even see how this storyline ends out. I know that, like, here's the thing. I know that some kind of a, like, is it going to be armor? Or is it going to be, what, some kind of a character who has some kind of force field generation abilities? I'd imagine that's what it is. Or maybe it's going to be, what's her name? Black Hole, whatever her name was. The chick with, it's all purple and floaty and stuff. I don't know, but you figure it's going to be somebody who's somehow related to Miles Morales and his, or in this case probably her, because it's time. Like it's so obvious to me. It's time for it to be a female who, you know, shows up, a powered female shows up, and it's like at some point they're going to show, oh, this is who they were powering the dimensional thing off of and whatever, and I just don't care. Maybe it's going to be America. Maybe it's going to be, you know, America Chavez. I don't know. Don't know, and at this point I barely care. I don't know if I'm going to have the desire to read the next issue. Because this has gotten boring. It's a shame. What a shame. I was so excited about this book last month and especially the month before. It is what it is. Like the video, watch an ad. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.